Well, hey fans, welcome back to another movie review, and today we're talking about Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. So before I get to the rest of my review, I'd like to thank the sponsor for this video, MoviePass. So MoviePass is back and it's better than ever. It's a subscription-based ticketing service, and I've been using it for a few months now, and I just think it's great. And they have this neat new black card, and it feels great, and it's very easy to use. And unlike your AMC A-List or your Regal Unlimited, you can use MoviePass at almost any theater, and it is very simple to use. They now go off of a points-based system, so you pay every month, and that will vary depending on the market that you live in, and you'll get a certain amount of points to use for movies. And the price in terms of points for the movies varies depending on the day of the week that you go to the theater, the time of the showing, and how recently the movie has been released. So what you'll do is you'll go into the app, you'll click the movie that you want to see, unlock the card, and then pay. And you can also pick the online option for just a few more points if you don't want to wait in line. So again, thank you to MoviePass. So Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a dark comedic horror fantasy directed by Tim Burton. It is the legacy sequel to Beetlejuice. So you got returning stars Michael Keaton, Catherine O'Hara, Winona Ryder, and you got newcomers Willem Dafoe, Jenna Ortega, Justin Theroux, and Monica Bellucci. And there's a few other special cameos in there as well. So this story takes place many years later. Lydia Deetz she gets a call from her mom stating that her father, Charles, has died, so they must return home for his funeral. And once there, and of course they bring her teenage daughter with them from boarding school, and somehow they get wrapped up in a story where they have to work with Beetlejuice again. So starting off, I am a fan of the original Beetlejuice movie. I remember watching it a lot in the 90s. Just one of those throwback films that you can always enjoy. I like the world that Tim Burton built, the creepiness that he always puts into his practical effects and into his movies. The way Michael Keaton portrays the character of Beetlejuice, he's like just a funny guy who you love to hate. And they've been trying to get this sequel off the ground for years. And as a kid, I actually grew up watching the Beetlejuice cartoon. I watched it mostly on Cartoon Network, and I really did enjoy what they did with that cartoon. It's probably one of my favorite cartoons of the 90s, the way they did it. It's different from the movie. It's not canonically connected to the movie. Lydia and Beetlejuice are more like friends, and they go into the nether world, and they have like a little adventures as she comes home at the end. It's that kind of show. And that is kind of what tied the fans of the franchise over for years while they were working on the sequel. Finally, we were able to get it done, and I think a lot of this does stem from the fact that Tim Burton directed Jenna Ortega in his Wednesday Addams Netflix series, and I think before she has made comments about how, man, she looks like she could be Lydia Deetz's daughter if they ever made a Beetlejuice sequel, and of course they ended up making that happen. So with this movie, I had a fun time watching it. I went to the theater to like a 10 o'clock showing at night. There were a few people in there, and it was a good time at the theater. I do feel like Tim Burton had many ideas of where to take these characters over the years, and he crammed a lot of different storylines in there. There's a storyline about Astrid Deetz, who is Lydia's daughter, her wanting to find her dad since her mom can see ghosts. For some reason, they can't see dad. She meets this boy and she falls in love, and there's actually something nefarious going on with him that you find out toward the end of the movie. I don't want to spoil it. That's a major plot line. You got Beetlejuice's ex-wife, who's portrayed by Monica Bellucci, and she's trying to get revenge because she's been locked up in the afterlife for years because they were like married in the human world, which that is another interesting. So another storyline, you find out like Beetlejuice's human backstory. Like I always considered that he was just a demon who was always there, but I guess everybody who is there was once human. So you find out about his human past with her. So that was interesting. You got Delia Deetz, played by Catherine O'Hara, her life as this like famous artist who's just sad over the fact that her one true love died, and she's doing all this stuff to pay respects to him. You got Lydia Deetz getting remarried. And so there's just so many storylines that converge in this movie, and not all of them work. I do think the storyline with Beetlejuice's ex-wife, Dolores, I do think you could probably cut that storyline out, because that also ties into Willem Dafoe's character. He was like an actor in real life, but he is a cop in the afterlife who solves like dead people cases. That it's interesting, but I feel like you could have cut that storyline out for the terms of this movie, because it brings up more questions than answers, because there's a thing about Dolores that she's a soul sucker and she can kill people in the afterlife, and I just think that just brings up a lot more questions they don't have time to answer in this movie, along with a bunch of other things. But mostly, even with all those stories, not all of them land correctly, it was enjoyable. I like the fact that Winona Ryder as Lydia Deetz, you get these legacy sequels and you would expect everybody to go on and have like a great life. They've achieved their dreams. They're rich and famous and all that stuff. And that is true within this movie. But Lydia Deetz is still weird. She's still very weird and socially awkward, even though she has a daughter who's very similar to her, but not exactly the same. But like the essence of that character is still there, even though she's achieved her dreams, so to speak. Catherine O'Hara's character is the exact same. And a character who I would like to bring up who's in this movie, but not really in this movie, is Jeffrey Jones as Charles Deetz. So if you just hop on the internet right now and look up, what's going on with Jeffrey Jones and why he's not in this movie, you'll find out exactly why. There's some stuff that went down that definitely makes sense why they would want to put him in this movie. But the thing is, it feels like Tim Burton really wanted that character in this movie and was not going to compromise on either recasting or cutting him out completely. So it's understandable. He's like, all right, we can't use the actor, I'll get around it. So the character does appear in the movie. Like I said, he dies, but his afterlife self, because of the way he died, does not have a head. So you don't see his face. When they talk about how he died, it is played in a flashback, but the flashback is in claymation. So they still use Jeffrey Jones's likeness, but it's not really him playing the role. I'm not sure who's doing the voice, but they really skirt around not actually having to have the old actor there because of his situation and still being able to use that character. So I think that was really interesting for Tim Burton to do, just to make that work for this film. And back to the story. It's Beetlejuice. It is funny. There's a lot of comedy in it. You're gonna laugh more than you don't, but it is also surprisingly dark. It is a very dark film. There are characters, and I don't want to spoil anything, but there are characters who die in this movie that I was like, oh wow, I was not expecting them to die. And you think it's gonna be like some happy ending. Oh, they're gonna get a second chance at life at the end. No, they're dead. They're dead. It's done for them. It's over. One character specifically, I was like, oh wow, I can't believe they killed this character, and it is done. One character who, it's the way this character is taken out. Basically, this character gets sent to hell, like flaming fire and all of that in this afterlife place. I guess it's hell, whatever, where the bad people go. And it's like, wow, it's just pretty dark. It's just that simple. And like I said, there's more questions than answers in a lot of storylines that converge in this film. Like, I really like to know how the afterlife works, how everybody gets these jobs, who gets to move on and who doesn't. As we know, Gina Davis and Alec Baldwin were in the original movie. There were a couple that died, and there were poltergeists there. For obvious reasons, they are written out of the sequel. We know Alec Baldwin, he did have some trouble, which would restricted him from being in this. But at the same time, those characters were young in the first movie and they were dead. So unlike Michael Keaton's covered in a lot of makeup, so you can't tell that he's aged, you would definitely be able to tell that Alec Baldwin and Gina Davis' characters aged. And be like, how can these ghosts age? So it makes sense that you would figure out a way to cut those characters out moving forward. Unless, seeing as Tim Burton likes a lot of practical effects, I doubt he would like to go for a de-aging situation for this movie. But overall, I had a good time. In terms of score, I'm going to give it a decent 7.3 out of 10. I would love to see a third Beetlejuice movie where they call it Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice, Beetlejuice. Oh, I just said the name 3 times. Hopefully he doesn't appear. But I would like to see where they would like to take these stories further. They definitely leave a lot of plot lines open to do another film. But what I think would actually work best, I think they should go ahead and do the third one, but in terms of keeping this franchise going, they should make a television series set in the Beetlejuice world using a lot of these undead characters. But unlike the animated version, make it canon to the movies. I think that would be great. Kind of like what they did with Cobra Kai and the Karate Kid movies. I think that is where this franchise should go moving forward. And Michael Keaton, he's still got it. He's still very funny as Beetlejuice. The character still looks great. Like I said, you can barely tell that he has changed due to all the makeup. And I think this is something that will probably help. Not that his career ever went down or anything like that, but I think, going back to comedies for him is a good thing. I'd like to thank you guys again for joining me for this movie review. You can watch the full review on YouTube and the website, flipfrogllc.com/flixfrog. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Reddit. And please, pretty please, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, I'll be seeing you.